Long now has mankind looked up to the skies and wondered if we are alone in this universe. Many miraculous things have been spotted all over the world, reported by our militaries, and sparked great debates amongst ourselves. I am here to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, people of Earth, brothers and sisters of all races, all countries, that we are not alone. We have never been alone. That some higher power has sought to spread the gift of life throughout the universe and beyond all comprehension. It is in these times we must learn to love one another. We must not share hate, but joy. We must not inhibit, but we must grow. These beings are our friends. They are our family. They want to help us become better, to see the true potential of mankind. And for maybe one day, we will join them in their voyage to help other beings from other star systems. As shocking as this news may be, it is nothing new. Our governments of the world have known for quite some time that we are not alone in this universe, and we have had contact for many of years, slowly preparing the American public and the publics of the world for such a revelation. We are not alone, and we are about to embark on the greatest journey mankind has ever experienced. Ladies and gentlemen, we have contact.
Well,
we thought we lost you there, Dakota. We thought you had lost you because you left.
yeah, my connection started glitching out. There was, I think I'm starting to hear the freaking tones, and all of a sudden there was pieces showing up on my screen.
Yeah, I was listening. I could hear the tones too. Dakota, would you introduce our guest?
Yes, I was not expecting it to kick off like this.
Yeah, I think something's going to happen.
Yeah, we were talking about doing CE5 tonight.
Yeah.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, tonight from the TikTok channel Sotto Voce Vault, we have Damocles. Am I pronouncing that right?
Damocles.
Yes.
Damocles. Call me D.
I was trying to figure that out. Actually, I didn't even think
D shares so much information on her website, Sotto Voce Vault, which you can find in the description of this episode.
Yeah.
And we just had to invite her on because somehow it seems to line up exactly with a lot of what Chris and I experience in our own investigations. So naturally, we have to try to rope in as many crazy people with this topic so we can try to figure out what's going on. So how are you, Dee?
I am lovely. I am really excited to be here. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Welcome to the club, you know.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be a part of something.
I've got a question for you.
Yes, please.
How did your internet site? How did it start? How did you come into this? How did it all start for you?
Me personally, I've always been interested in aliens. When I was little, I had 2 closets in my bedroom. Right. I stuffed all of my stuff in one and created this little alien room in the other one. I had a lava lamp and glow-in-the-dark stars. I had one friend who invited me over for her birthday, and she had an entire alien-themed room, and we watched Attack from Mars. Was that Attack from Mars?
That's an old one now.
Yeah, yes. This was like 5th grade. So just from a really young age, I thought that there was something out there. I don't know if you remember the Lisa Frank notebooks that were really bright and colorful and had these cute animals on. Well, they had alien ones. I always had the alien ones. So I think honestly that there is a connection to Outer Worlds. I have a couple of screen memories from when I was younger that I don't know what's hidden behind them, but I've always felt like there was more out there until life went on and we were told, oh, there's nothing there, nothing to see. So I just kind of went about life until about halfway through the pandemic, the end of 2020, I was doom scrolling on Twitter one day, as one does, right after the 2020 election here, when there was still a lot of turbulence going on. And while I was doing that, I saw an advertisement for The Phenomenon, which was a documentary that had come out, I think, in October of 2020. And I immediately told my sibling, I'm like, that's what I want to do for my birthday, is I want to watch this documentary. So we did, because it was my birthday was just a couple weeks later. And 5 minutes in, I was like, I'm sold. UFOs are absolutely real. This makes total sense to me. And from then, I just dove down the rabbit hole, investigating everything that I could. So mainly going along the UFO track, there was one point where I saw a Twitter poll that asked what people thought that these beings were. Are they extraterrestrials? Are they demons and angels? Are they interdimensional beings? And most people said extraterrestrials, which is what you would expect. But there was a larger than expected number that said that they were interdimensional beings. And that wasn't something I had interfaced with. And so I started investigating that route. What does that mean? And it took me to Dr. Newton's work, The Journey of the Soul, where I started finding out how these higher spiritual realms are connected to our physical reality. I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Why we're here, why things are difficult, why we struggle, why we're here to learn. That all makes sense. I'm like, oh, it must not be extraterrestrials. They're spirit beings. But then I continued to do more research and watched Skinwalker Ranch, which there is very interesting, but there are a lot of more negative things that happen on the ranch. Some people had some really terrifying personal experiences. I'm like, well, that doesn't mesh with my understanding of the spirit realm. So then I started figuring out there's all of these different levels. So then I just started doing research across the board and found that when you step back, after you go down all of these different avenues, they all lead to the same place. They're all just pieces of the pie. And once you put them all together, an entire picture forms that makes complete sense. We're just looking at it from a very narrow point of view.
Yes.
So I thought, well, it took me months and months and months of research for other people, going through other people's decades of research. And there's so much out there. I figured it out. There are other people who must be looking and have a hard time finding the information. So I was like, well, I will put together a website that was how I made sense of all of this. Maybe it'll help somebody else out who is also looking to find out why they're here and what the truth is. And that's how it kind of got started.
Well, I must say, guys, in the chat and everybody that's listening to this, please check out the links below. And all the links that Dakota's put in. I mean, Sotto Voce. I mean, I'm only halfway. I'm not even halfway through it. I mean, there's some amount of stuff in there. I mean, the time and effort that you have put into that is absolutely phenomenal.
Oh,
I mean, some of the stuff's amazing. Yeah. But I think my co-host here, I think he's got some questions for you. So
yes,
when you go, I'm going to hand you over to him.
I know we were kind of getting into this before we came on the brink. So what is the inspiration behind the Renaissance theme behind Sotto Voce?
Yes. So I've always been extremely interested in the Renaissance and the idea of a rebirth. The Renaissance occurred after the Dark Ages, and there wasn't actually any new information that was discovered during the Renaissance. It was all a rediscovery of ideas from antiquity. And it wasn't really until the Enlightenment that we actually started to do research above and beyond that and start to build on. But the thing that I loved about the Renaissance is you see so much art and beauty and this pursuit of truth and knowledge and the ideals of the time. So I was interested about what makes this specific period so special, because there was so much talent there during that period of time. But there's always talent here. There are so many talented people here. What is the difference between sometime like the Renaissance, where you have your Da Vinci's and Michelangelo's and Raphael's, and a period of time that just focuses on something different, and you don't see a lot of that movement in art and culture and beauty? And it's really about the emphasis that society puts on those ideals at the time. The people who were in power during the Renaissance were bankers and merchants, and their wealth and power grew when they had stable societies that were also growing. So they became patrons for these artists, and they basically had an advertising campaign for these ideals that we just think this was a flourishing time in human history. But it was because those in power put the emphasis on these ideals. Nowadays, we have corporations putting the emphasis through marketing on materialism. So that's where our focus is.
Yes.
But I feel like if there's an aspect of our society that redirects our attention and starts putting the emphasis back on these ideas of truth seeking and curiosity and understanding and evolving, that will then once again become prevalent, and we can take this next step forward. We're also, in the same way that the Renaissance was rediscovering information we already knew, these things that we're finding out through investigators and whistleblowers and channelers and contactees about our own human history, not just like through the galaxy, but here on Earth, there are things that we knew before, but they have been hidden and buried. And we're now going through a rebirth and rediscovering of these things that we have known coming out of this dark age. So it is kind of like a new Renaissance. And if we band together and accept these truths, these ideas, this next step in our evolution, we can really flourish as a society. So those were the ideas that we wanted to get across to the audience, that truth seeking for the sake of understanding can be important and valued in itself.
Yes.
So that was the idea behind it.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I mean, honestly, I mean, let's take, what do you know about the moon? What's your opinion on the moon?
I think the moon has a long and interesting history that is not at all what we learned in school.
No.
So did you want me to go through my understanding of the moon's
your
history?
understanding it? Yeah. I mean,
okay.
I mean, the history I know, it's been part of the Earth and stuff like that. But out in my research, right, there was actually a time in history, not written history, the moon did not exist in the sky.
That is correct.
And a lot of that information was destroyed deliberately for some unknown reason. What could it be? Could you tell us?
Absolutely. So one of the clues that we have that it did exist was there's actually writing by Aristotle who talked about individuals. He was referencing individuals that lived in the time before the moon. A lot of people think that was symbolic, but it could have very well been literal, and it is. So what we have found out through different contacts, through Dan Winter and Elena actually talked about this on an episode that she did yesterday. And Alex Collier, I think, can probably confirm this, if I'm sure he has already. That's probably why they were talking about it. So my understanding of the moon is that it's an inorganic structure. It was originally an Andromedan starship that was brought to and camouflaged like a celestial body, brought to the Earth, parked in Earth's orbit for a specific reason, about 10,500 years ago, right around the Atlantic cataclysm where we had the flood, in order to stabilize the Earth's gravity and magnetic fields. And we know that there's a lot of geometry there because the moon is positioned, first of all, it's parked facing the Earth and doesn't
Mhm.
spin, which everything
Which is-
spins.
Yes.
Suspect to begin with. So let's take a
Yes.
closer look. It's positioned exactly 8 paces of its own diameter away. So I think it's 2,160 miles across, and its distance from Earth is exactly 8 times that. So you have a lot of geography. So there is
Yes.
actually nuclear frequency generators, that's what Dan Winter called them, on the moon that helped to stabilize Earth's orbit after the damage to the planet was caused when the Galactic Federation came during the Atlantic cataclysm to wipe out the Naboo, who are the Orion Gray collective that also works with the Sakaar, who's the Draco Reptilians, and the Anunnaki. And so that was placed for benevolent reasons to help restabilize the Earth so that it could be habitable again. But eventually, after time, it was also intended to create a frequency fence that would trap these negative entities here to keep them from taking over the rest of the solar system again, as Elena and Dan were saying on her episode yesterday. So definitely watch that one. It was really interesting. From then, though, eventually those frequency generators started to decay, and the Naboo were able to go in and hack them. And they then became a tool for I call them the NNA, the Negative Alien Alliance.
Yeah.
Those 3, there's a bunch of names for them,
Yeah.
but that's how I quickly refer to them. So it was then used as a tool to alter the frequencies and start projecting some of these negative mind control elements that we as a human race have been experiencing over the past multiple millennia at this point. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of my knowledge of the history of the moon.
Yeah, the moon has always interested me ever since the NASA crashed the lander into it, and it rung like a bell.
Like a bell for days.
Yes, for days.
Cool.
For days.
Yeah. But the whole thing is hollow. It's metal and it's hollow, and it's exactly like a bell.
Yeah. I mean, they're obviously using it as a base right now. It's getting used as a base right now. It's getting used, but I'm going to hand you over to Dakota because I think he's got something he wants to.
When it comes to the moon, there's been an awfully lot of activity for the good side as well. Thankfully, it's also cooperates the fact that Elena's been saying a lot of the Sakaar and the Orion group, they're all slowly being driven out, but unfortunately there is some loose ends still on her trying to basically earn back their territory.
Yeah. With
some of the more recent incidents I remember standing from the surface of the moon and looking back on the Earth, realizing, wait a sec, I'm not at home.
How cool.
Never. Yeah. It almost feels like this is going to be a topic that the second we feel like we have a good understanding, something new is going to get thrown our way.
Oh yeah.
It always does. Yeah. Always keeping us on our toes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of things coming. Right. I think there's amazing things coming. Can I ask you about you sort of what you say? There's a couple of old photos that I was looking at. There was one in particular. I don't know what it's called. It was like a picture, and it was like a star. It looked like lots of ships having a battle above it. What pictures are that? You know the one I'm talking about.
Do you know which part? It was probably in this part.
With all of the crosses in the sky.
Yeah, because Dakota was actually going on about the battles.
Are you talking about the painting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or like it's like a sketch?
Yes.
That is the Battle of Nuremberg from 1561.
Yes. I mean, it's quite interesting what you say about the alien, the long alien ships, because that's obviously what that is.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people don't realize, I mean, there was documented evidence of things dating back all the way to the 12th century.
Yeah.
But it's hidden. It's like those pictures that you have got in your site. I mean, there's pictures of UFOs up in the corner, and there's a little man pointing up at it. I mean, it's just so amazing. It's just so fascinating how. I mean, let's take Da Vinci. What's your thoughts on Da Vinci? Do you think he had any knowledge of our little friends from above?
I do actually think that he had contact. He had 2 missing years. So he was born to I think it was basically like an advisor, kind of like a lawyer position, was what his father held in essentially the court there. But I don't believe his mother was married to him, and he was basically a bastard son who wasn't able to attend the regular academies that official offspring were back in those days. So he spent a lot of time just walking through nature and wandering and really being curious. And all of these kids were learning in school, but he was learning in the world and got a lot of ideas from that. But there are kind of 2 missing years of his. And after that, he starts coming up with these incredible ideas. And one of his quotes is, once you've tasted flight, you'll always yearn to go back to the skies, or something like that. But where was he flying in the late 1400s? So I think that there may have been either some sort of contact, or either, I don't know, remote viewing of future times, because he came up with all of these blueprints for structures that we have today. What are the chances that you create anything and it's in that linear timeline that eventually comes to fruition?
I mean, it's what I've noticed, right? And I know there's like modern sightings of UFOs, right? And there's people that took video and, oh yeah, I seen it in the sky and stuff. But I would say there was actually a lot more information about UFOs from the 15th, the 14th, the 15th century. Because they've actually, what they seen, they painted it. In canvas. And that just
took a long time to do. That wasn't just a little dot that they did. They spent time thinking about that ahead of time. They planned it out.
Because you think about that, there's photos. I mean, you think about all the pictures that's been done over the years, right? In the 15th century, 14th century, so on, with these little UFOs in the corner, or these just strange things that look, that's not right. That should not be there. Like, is it the Mayans, Dakota, that actually had the stonework, and it looks like a man sitting at a computer. You know the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do believe there is a Mayan sculpture that is actually believed by ancient astronaut theorists to depict a man getting ready to take off in some sort of ship.
Yes.
And then there's control panels, there's pedals, everything you would expect for somebody to take off. And it's for a society that's supposed to be, indigenous, it's ill advanced. How are they able to come up with these things that we recreate today? They fly perfect, but probably better than some of our aircraft today.
Yes, and you think about it too. You think about the best one that I've ever seen that has always fascinated me is the Egyptian one, and it looks like a helicopter. It looks like an Apache helicopter that the Americans military would use. It looks dead like it. I mean, and then you've got the big light. I just think the past has got more evidence than now. Yes, we get the UFOs flying in videos and stuff, but I think there's more proof in the past than present.
There was a gentleman he was a scholar who worked for NASA back in the 50s, and he decoded, I think that they were ancient Sumerian texts, and they were these big blocks with these astronomically long numbers done, like carved into rock from 6,000 years ago, and they just looked like a bunch of random numbers until this NASA employee went through them, and they were the orbits of all of the different planets. I think there were 10 of them, and they were the length of time each of the planets took to orbit the sun, down to like the second or something, some astronomical, like specific, accurate number. I don't know why ancient Sumerians 6,000 years ago would need that information unless they were given it to them by somebody who needed to know that information, such as for navigating through the solar system. But they hadn't even had equipment to be able to discover those bodies yet they knew the exact amount of time it took to orbit the sun. So absolutely to your point.
So I've got a question for me. What's your knowledge in Ukraine right now? What do you think's actually happening right now? Obviously, we had a conversation before we went live, right? But obviously, our lovely people listening tonight wasn't there. What do you think's happening there right now?
I think it's important to say that in any geopolitical conflict, it's complicated. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of people who benefit. There's a lot of people who are going after, goals and means that they are not transparent about. Through my research, though, I think it's quite evident at this point that basically every conflict throughout human history had an extraterrestrial element to it. We see our history of warring countries and conflicts as, different factions of humans fighting over territory or resources or for, greed, love, whatever the reason may be. But if you look at Lisa Renee's work, which talks about the different genetics that the different tribes of humans have when they were seeded upon the planet, that all of these wars that we see on our plane are proxy wars for these higher entities fighting over genetics and territory and their technology. So I think that can be applied throughout human history, especially coming into this past century. I'm not a geopolitical expert, nor am I an expert on Russia or Putin, but I have done some research into the general Russia mindset and Putin's MO. He's been in the game for a really long time. And he's a very strong-minded individual. But I think that I'm getting some feedback here. Sorry. I think that initially, it may be time.
See, that's when you start talking. It's when we talk about this subject in particular, and we know what the subject is. It's what Elena was talking about in Ukraine, and she had the exact same problems.
Okay. Let's see if maybe talking slower and more clearly will help a little bit. From a purely blue-pilled perspective, I don't think Putin's moves in Ukraine made geopolitical sense. And it is difficult to, with the media environment being what it is, it's difficult for us without insider knowledge to separate the wheat from the chaff. What is the actual intel? What's being expanded either through, let's see, I want to see how I can say this. There's some misinformation and there's some truth, because there's always a core of truth to all misinformation. So it's difficult to see what is what. But from a strictly 3D point of view, I don't think that suddenly invading Ukraine, when there's been really little movement in the whole conflict since 2014, all of a sudden made geopolitical sense for him. And from what we're being told and seeing from the state of his economy and the own uprisal that he's having in his country, it seems as though there may be something going on that we're not privy to. And if you don't know anything about the ET phenomenon or the visitor presence here, you don't understand the real reason for any conflict that we've had in the past, forever. But let's focusing on the last century. I mean, every conflict has had some sort of ET element to it, whether we're trying to get technology or get into,
yeah.
you know, Hall of Records or Stargates or whatever that
Mhm.
is. So the fact that at the same time this is happening, and Dr. Sally even had a couple articles that he posted in the weeks leading up to the actual Ukraine invasion,
Mhm.
all of the evidence for me is pointing to that there is a large amount of, not a large, something very important in Ukraine that Putin decided he wanted to get his hands on right away. And I think that these space sarks that JP and other whistleblowers and Elena and Thorhan have been talking about make sense.
Yes.
And so that getting your hand on a large extraterrestrial craft with advanced technology is absolutely a reason that makes sense to me for a country for one to invade another.
What makes me fascinated about this is as Lena was saying, there's only a certain few that can activate the technology.
The people with the right genetics.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And people may think, oh, what is this arc? I mean, there's arcs all over the world, and they've all started activating.
Yeah.
And they think it was what was that asteroid that came into the system? It was a foreign. What was that? What was its name?
Oumuamua.
Yes.
Yeah. They think that did something that activated all of these arcs, because there's meant to be one in Antarctica where it's slowly melting the ice. Yeah. And they think this year, this September or later or before it, it's going to come out the ground. They're going to totally turn on. And they say that the stuff in there's, well, obviously it's technology to help us. But it makes you wonder, why is Putin wanting it? I mean, what he's doing right now is madness. What he's doing right now is madness. I mean, it's only trying to capture that zone now. That's all he's trying to do, is capture it's like the rebels will take it back, and then he'll take it, and then the rebels will take it back, and then it's there's something more to that desert.
Yeah, I think that from the beginning, a lot of what we've been seeing and hearing about has been geopolitical theater. And I don't want to discount the suffering, the lives lost, the refugee crisis. There are a lot of horrible human things that are occurring to a lot of people, and that deserves our attention. Absolutely. I think this is a completely separate issue, talking about the motivations for why these things are happening. So I absolutely agree that there's an element here that we're not being completely told what the real reason that this conflict is going on. And I think evidence to that is the first place that Putin invaded was, he had a couple different points, but the first one he captured was Kherson, 15 miles away from Oleshki Sands, where these coordinates for this arc are. And for the next month, we're hearing about a battle over Kiev. Does he take Kiev? Does Ukraine take Kiev back? Kiev. All we're hearing about is Kiev. But he took Kherson. First couple days into the war, he got what he wanted, and now we're being distracted with things going on in the other part of the country when nobody's talking about Kherson and what's going on down there. He got what he wanted almost straight away, and everything else is just distraction for the public to be focused on, so that we don't ask, well, why did he go through Kherson first? Maybe it was strategic. Maybe there was something there that he wanted.
I think there's something.
I agree. That would be my analysis.
Dakota?
No, I was just going to say, with Putin's history as a former KGB officer, as well as his long documented history within Russian politics, he's heard some stories. Within Russia, there's intercepted reports that actually indicate that several soldiers within Siberia encountered a UFO, to which these beings that they encountered, they seemed to merge into one. There was this bright flash of light. Then all the ones who couldn't get to cover, there was only 2 out of, I believe it was a group of 15, that got turned to stone.
Oh, and that was at that mountain pass?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, I heard about that.
And with Putin, a lot of insiders are allegedly claiming that he has some sort of illness, which, face it, he's not a young guy. With a lot of latest reports where some of these arcs have medicinal plants that can cure just about any illness, these medicine pods that are going to slowly start being worked to the public. I do find it kind of funny that we start talking about these pods, and then Sweden approves a suicide machine pod that would be a very similar design, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
Neither did I. That's actually really interesting, actually, Dakota.
Yeah.
I never...
Assisted suicide machines like you would expect out of the show Futurama was the comparison that gets put out a lot.
Good God. It's...
Which...
Oh, when you go, sorry?
No, I was just going to say, there is so much distraction going on, and one thing that obviously can't be ignored is that with the conflicts in Ukraine and just about any conflict within the last century, especially since the Second World War, all of a sudden we have extra eyes in the skies that nobody knows or will admit. We have no clue where they're coming from. Or either we do, it's just that we know that if we go to tick them off, we'll lose that fight.
Yeah. I mean, the UFO, I don't know if you've noticed this, but the UFO sightings in Ukraine right now is off the scale.
I hadn't heard that, but that doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
To your point about sorry. There's a question up there. I'm pretty sure that I heard through the research that Mikhail Gorbachev actually met with extraterrestrials and wanted to move forward on disclosure and was kind of batted down. But I think Putin is absolutely aware through Dr. Sala's whistleblowers and contacts. There seems to be an arc, not just in Ukraine, but one also in Russia that Putin already has his hands on, and that there are benevolent ETs that have that kind of lockdown where they're showing him positive technology to help his people, but not going to let him do anything maniacal with it. But he absolutely is aware of the ET presence and this technology, and he may even have his hands on some. I just don't know if each arc, it seems as though they may all belong to different civilizations. So I think each arc has its own history and technology and genetic specimens that are being preserved. I think each one of them may have a completely, probably overlapping set of information, but by taking more than just the one you have, you may build on the knowledge base that you have.
It's I mean, Russia's actually quite interesting because I'm fascinated by Russia. There's actually a place in Russia, I think it is the Death Valley, Dakota. I was actually talking to this the other day. There's a place in Russia where it's like a forest. It's totally dead. Nothing lives there.
Yes.
And there's these ancient like buildings that have slowly sunk into like the marsh. And when people go near them, they get really sick as if it's like radiation sickness. And there's actually ancient drawings of like deer, and people would go inside these all made of metal domes. And in the middle of the winter, and you've got to remember Siberia is like what, -40, -50. And you could walk inside and you could take your jacket off and it'd be warm inside. But these places have slowly disappeared. And it was something to do with like an ancient weapons platform to protect Earth. Do you know anything about that?
That one I'm not familiar with. I was trying to look for a picture from, I think it was the Death Valley one that you were talking about. Here it is. Are you talking about Tunguska? Tunguska?
I'll see if I can find it really quickly.
Oh geez, this is gonna be way too bright. Let's see. Maybe I'll have to turn the brightness down. It's this big circle in the middle of the forest where nothing will grow. And here we go. Let's see if I can. And there was an event there, I think the early 1900s. Oh, there we go.
That's the Tunguska event or something. It was like something like a nuclear bomb or something.
Yeah, that like went off and just downed millions of trees. And 100 years later, there are still trees that will not grow
Yeah.
in this area.
I'm trying to remember. Remember we did a video on that, Dakota. It was there's this place in Siberia, and it's, I don't know if anybody in the chat can actually help us. It was this. It's just give me a minute.
I remember the one you're talking about. I do believe Ancient Aliens did an episode on it where
Ancient
there was
Aliens
actually
did that. Yeah.
stories of meteors being shot from the sky from this point. And that some of the animals that you were talking about, when it became particularly active, the radiation levels
That's right.
would essentially start cooking them alive.
Yeah. Well, I'll actually need to find that and send it to you. I'll find that and send it to
over.
you.
Thank you.
So, what do you know about CE5? Because my friend Dakota here has been dabbling in his own type of CE5 kind of stuff. Would you tell us about that, Dakota? Tell.
Yeah. Well, as we've been discussing through email, there has been CE5 implemented into some of our contact sessions, because as some people who in the chat can actually verify, physical voices we would hear, no channeling necessary, would actually start asking for them, because something about it either seems like puts up a firewall against negative energies, because we have also noticed that with certain negative beings that have tried to interfere with our investigations, and like I said, have actually sent people we've tried working with to the hospital for various different medical reasons.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, it's currently an active investigation. But
yes,
it also primes the human brain to be more receptive to these.
Yeah.
So have you ever tried one, actually?
Have I?
Yeah.
No, I feel like I have some sort of lead helmet on, that there's something in my head that does not let me project out, that there's some sort of barrier that is, and I know like projecting out, that's not how it works, but I feel like there's a barrier between me and these higher abilities. I have tried the gateway tapes. I've done meditation. I have never successfully been able to have, I guess, what we would call a mystical experience. All of my experiences, with the exception of little breadcrumbs from my guides and a couple of strange dreams I've had, has all been very, very human so far.
Yeah.
Lucky.
There is ways.
I didn't think it was lucky before, but you're making me reevaluate. So I'm going to be much more grateful going forward.
There's ways to break the force field. Once you break the force field, you'll never get it back again. You'll in fact, once that happens, you will not be left alone.
Awesome. Okay, well, we got to make sure we do it intentionally. I mean, it seems as though we are on a path where all of this stuff is, coming quickly. So no time like the present. Let's give it a try. I don't know if there's something I need to do, but
you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Dakota's going to do his magic. But you can see his EMF meter in the background starting to light up.
Can you point to where it is for me, so I know I'm
just
I'm
behind you? Can
right
okay. Okay. This. Yep. Oh, it just there. It is. It's getting brighter.
They know. Yeah, they know.
Yeah.
They know they're going to turn it on.
Basically, that's their cue of saying, "Hurry up, turn it on. We got something to say."
Yes.
Oh. So what is that's going there? If you haven't turned it on yet, what is on? I don't know how any of this equipment works. Sorry.
That's an EMF
it's
detector.
A standard EMF meter. It's basically you're supposed to use it to see like if your microwave's working or if there's any bad wiring in your house. They say with spirits and particularly. Yeah, actually, what a lot of people don't realize is that up to the first 4 seasons of Supernatural were actually based on real.
Yeah, like the first 5 seasons were planned and they were going to end it after that, and then they went to like 15 or something. But
yeah, that not a lot of people realize how much that's actually true.
Oh, there's so much predictive programming in our TV and our movies. I absolutely believe it.
Sometimes Basically, you see right here, well, that's a little concerning that it's reacting to me. Basically, it's not supposed to pick up human EMF unless that person has been exposed to something, or maybe they're on like
They're coming
thyroid
for you
medication
tonight, Dakota.
that's radioactive.
Or maybe
So-
you're upgrading and that's why it's changing to you. We don't know what that upgrade process looks like yet. And you've been going through some stuff. So
Yeah.
who knows?
Well, yeah, one of my first experiences, I ended up 30 miles away from where I went to bed one night. I was 5 years old, so
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
sounds terrifying. I'm sorry.
It's amazing. Just wait till you hear the tones. It can send people in. And for instance, the person in the chat, her name's Paranormal World Investigators. She's actually in hospital now. Sherry, please get better.
Yeah.
She's like a psychic. She can see our friends because that was our question a little while ago. We're not alone. You've got people
He's
behind you.
picking up
Yeah.
on people. When we had Elena on last, did you happen to see the trailer I put together for the documentary we're trying to work on?
I did. Yes.
Sherry was the one that was looking like she was zoning out
Yeah.
and going into a trance.
Okay, with the long dark hair.
That's her.
that's her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's all.
Basically, we did a CE5 session and it almost went very wrong.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what that was.
Okay. Well,
I had
better
to
results this
physically-
time.
I actually had to physically talk her out of it to the point
Oh,
that
goodness.
to this day she swears I was the only one she could actually hear.
Well, thank goodness that you guys all worked
Loser.
together on that.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, which is weird because I'm in Idaho, he's over in Scotland, she's closer towards London. These things are moving instantaneously thousands of miles.
Yeah.
You must
So
remember
hanging
these
around us for a
entities.
little bit, you may start seeing stuff.
Awesome.
You will. You will.
It's exciting.
You're going to start seeing stuff. I can guarantee it.
I feel like it's time. I feel like I've like prepared myself for when that starts happening. So probably nowhere near the level of preparation that will be adequate, but I've at least I won't be completely taken aback or surprised that it's happening. Expecting a little bit, but I'm sure it only helps a tiny bit than if you're blindsided, but at least I won't be blindsided. So thanks for the heads up.
Yeah, it's. I find see if you sit in a dark room, and honestly, I tell people to try this. See if you sit in a dark room and put a pair of noise cancelling headphones on,
Okay.
and turn on the tones, you can astral travel. It helps you
Okay.
travel. It
Okay.
opens the doorway. That's what I suggest if you want to try that yourself one night. Just try and zone in, and that will take you somewhere. But just remember this: if you go into that with like a happy mood, right, and you want to see nice things, that's what you're going to see. But if you go into that with a weird mood and you've just watched a horror movie, that's what you're going to experience.
Well, that would make sense with the law of attraction. Whatever frequency you are, you attract that frequency. So if you're vibrating at a higher love vibration, you're going to connect with entities of that vibration. From my understanding.
And believe me,
that makes sense.
There's dark entities out there just waiting.
Yeah. There is darkness.
Well, Dakota, shall we begin?
All right.
You're kind of glitchy over there, man.
Yeah, it's something
because
trying to come through right now.
Yeah.
There's actually times where it'll trigger a bit of a stutter, and I know Elena's talked about this in her books when she's talking about her implant, where you catch me at a stutter, then all of a sudden there's other voices talking that weren't there when I would be completely alone.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So yes, there's actually people that wish to study me because there's so much weird stuff that's been caught on camera. So
I bet.
oh my.
It's quite unusual for the EMF to stay lit up like that is. Yeah.
We will help you. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh.
Oh.
Where'd he
See, that's
go?
actually quite interesting. They'll be reconnecting. See, this is what happens. See that?
Who's here with us right now?
Do you feel something round about you?
I keep seeing kind of light flashes in the corner of my eye.
Yeah.
But I also have
Yeah, it's
stuff
normal.
on.
That's them moving about. They move about. Blue usually. Scene.
We're here.
It's quite strange because I can see something, but I don't want to freak you out.
No.
I've been seeing stuff move around her since she came on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
You want to say hi to Dee?
D in the corner where your picture is. There's somebody there.
Yep.
Tall.
See us. Can I ask who's talking?
There's Sherry
Doesn't
picking
want
up
to show
on
up.
If anyone hears anything or sees anything, say in the chat. Peaceful. Hear the see the EMF? That's very unusual for that. And something's taken Dakota.
Okay.
You'll be fine.
Okay.
Okay. What are you sensing, Dakota? can see it, Scottish Outlook. Yeah.
That's what you said you saw earlier.
It's nice, don't worry.
Say that again?
It's a nice entity, don't worry.
Okay, good. Hi.
It's a tall, grey looking.
Years. It's been a while since it's held that long.
It's been full ND about for a long time. With the eyes on you.
Olivia?
It's one aliens, I think. I think it's one of the ones that. Did you hear that? It said Elena.
Oh, did it? I didn't hear it. I was seeing if my cat was reacting. Sometimes they sense things.
Don't worry, guys, it's not an alien, it's just a cat. What are you sensing, Dakota?
I honestly can barely move right now.
There's a lot of them here tonight. Oh yeah. Is there any
Who's
galactic
Erica?
federation?
Wait, what did you just say?
What did you say there, Dakota?
Use your real name.
What?
Erica.
I didn't know. Is that your real name? Didn't know that.
I didn't tell you guys. I haven't told anybody. Oh, shit.
Yeah. Dakota, have you got your EMF pump on? Kind of one that produces power? The
Yeah, I
ball
got the
thing?
plasma ball on.
I was just wondering because there's something giving it energy.
That was the point.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, there's a lot in about you.
Say that again?
I said there's a lot around you. There's about 4 of them.
There's something going on.
Oh, there's Drew corrected me. There's 5.
Here?
Mm-hmm.
They're bouncing through us.
Can they share who they are? They do know me.
They've been watching you.
Hopefully I've been doing okay with the mission.
That one that's standing behind you is very tall.
Is that you, Jack?
It actually just said Jack.
Yeah.
It's Jack!
I've never seen the EMF stay in the red for so long. Do you have a message?
We're watching. One thing I've heard over and over is, do you remember us? Do you remember us?
I want to. I don't remember anything. I can't access my memories yet, but I want to. Do they have any advice?
Oh, come. I think you need to let Jack in. And others. Notice how your candles are like dimming away down.
The candles are reacting to him.
Mm-hmm. It's as if the energy's getting sucked out though.
Which wouldn't be the first time I've actually had glass candles explode on me.
Oh, let's not explode them.
No, they're good entities themselves, it's fine.
Oh, good.
Jack again. Do you remember the child? You see the light. One in the garden.
Do you hear us? A light just flashed behind you. They're starting to move away.
Yeah.
Wow.
Drew's paranormal vlog, she can sense it too. They're starting to move away.
They literally just said it.
Yeah. I noticed your cats are looking into the corner.
What were you looking at? Was something here?
Yeah. It's good. They're getting weak
They've
now.
been about the same age I was when I had my first encounter, if that's the case.
Was I 5? Okay, I'm gonna have to think on what the 5 thing was. I have a certain. It was a dream, but I think of it as a screen memory. But I thought it was from when I was like 3 or 4. I'll have to think on what happened when I was 5. I have the worst recall and memory, so I'm awful with names. So it's been common that anything that gets buried below the surface, I can't access. That's that lead helmet that I feel like I have. So I will have to think on when I was 5, garden, red dress. I will think on that and like meditate on that and get back to you guys.
Dakota, can you do there's an alpha echo coming through?
Yeah. I adjusted my settings so that the spirit box would come through all the way.
So I was having a hard time connecting some of the sounds to make words. Can you kind of give me your rundown on what you were getting coming through? You guys came up with my name. I just like a quick second on that. I have been very intentional from the beginning about keeping my identity out of this. And like, I can go into the reasons, but there's a few of them, but it's basically like the teachings matter, not the teacher, and who I am doesn't involve this. So the whole persona was kind of more of a mascot than like me trying to get famous or anything like that. Like the point was to get the information across, and I was keeping me out of it. So like me and my sibling, who knows a lot more about computers than I do, when we were building all of the accounts, like it was all, there were double and triple redundancies to keep my name and personal accounts out of this completely. And within like 3 or 4 minutes of starting this, you guys got a name that I have never associated with this entire project in any way. So, well done.
And Jack is still in the corner.
Jack,
And
are you
he's
still
big.
there?
Can you see him, Dakota, standing in the corner next to kind of the picture on the wall?
I was trying to make out starting to see a face coming through. I was trying to make out more detail.
He's tall. My goodness. Yeah, he's there.
About 6.5 feet, almost 7 foot.
Mm-hmm. He's a big one.
About my height.
Yeah. I'm wondering, do you
Hey,
think he's
Jack.
Palladian? Do you think he's Palladian?
Actually, I do.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that was coming through.
Yeah, that's what I was getting. That he was Palladian.
That has been kind of one of the breadcrumbs that like my lineage has gone back through that star system. And so again, I've had, no verbal confirmation on any of this, but it was kind of one of those gut feelings when I ran across this, like, yep, that all lines up. So that doesn't feel wrong and that resonates. And so I don't know who this particular person, when Jack got his name, I had just read the Journey of Souls series by Dr. Newton, and that is geared more towards lower level souls when you typically have, one spirit guide. And so that's the name that I gave. And there was a story, but it's not consequential. So that was the name I gave. And as I went on, I realized that there may be more than one guide, but I've never been able to differentiate. They've never introduced themselves in, a multiplicity of ways. So the collective, I now just call Jack. I talked to Jack upstairs, and I think there's more than one of them, but that was kind of the name. So I don't know if this is, primary guide individual or a friend, or I don't know, but it's, I would guess if he's identifying with Jack, then he's like the primary connection.
He's been around you for a long time. I don't know if he was chosen, would be the words, Dakota. But it's like Dakota's one, my one, and your one. It's like he's there to guide you in the right direction, because you've got a big part to play, by the way. You've got a big part to play, do you?
Well, they just reacted
With
like
Dakota.
that's pretty evident.
Yeah, you're going to see great things soon.
Well, thank you. Thanks for giving me this opportunity. This is wild. I've never had like a group mystical experience, and the fact that you guys got something I deliberately not connected with this demonstrates to me like this is beyond legit, and I am on board.
Yeah. It's quite interesting because a lot of people in the chat can see the shadow standing behind you.
Well, thank you for being here. I hope that I'm following your breadcrumbs okay. I'm trying. What did you guys get through all of this? I know that it's fuzzy and kind of hard to hear, but I think you may have caught a couple more things than I did. I thought I heard the word future at one point, but it was fuzzy, so I wasn't sure what other phrases may have come through.
I get some stuff, but I'll tell you after the live.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's also part of the reason why we also send this out as an audio podcast.
Yes.
So whenever stuff like that happens, all the excess visuals get taken away, so you just focus on the noise. It's something I will probably have to listen back to, but
okay.
I think they were trying to give you advice. It's just that sometimes, basically the way that thing works, it just shoots out random noises.
Okay.
And it's said that spirit, ET beings, whatever you want to label them, they can manipulate it to where if you start hearing full words, full on sentences, or in my case, full conversations, that's a good indicator you've got something on your hands.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's... Oh, sorry, Dakota.
And like Paranormal World Investigators was saying, they were also trying to talk about her as well.
Oh, okay.
Being that she is dealing with potentially spiritual influenced hospital visit, she's going to need all the help she can get.
Yes, please feel better.
I think the one that's there behind you is still there. It's great. He's just standing there looking at you. He's
He's a bit of a grin on his face, like he's been waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, I think the door has now been opened. You've opened the door. I think something's going to happen tonight. I think something's going to happen for you tonight.
I will keep you guys posted. I will absolutely follow up and let you know. Yeah. Welcome out of the Matrix.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. We'll talk to you after live for a quick 10 minutes, but would you like to give out all your information where we can find everything? And Dakota's already got the links below, but you know.
Oh, sorry, say that one more time.
Talking too quick for my Scottish accent.
Yeah,
all the links below are for everything, your website, everything. But would you like to tell the chat and the podcast world where you can find you?
Yes, we are at SottoVoceVault.com, and we are also on TikTok at Sotto Voce Vault. We will be starting up a YouTube channel. All of our links are through the website in the footer.
Yeah.
And we are really excited because next Sunday, we're going to be posting a whole new section of the website to bring everything together up to the current point of what's been going on with the positive and negative factions in our solar system over the past couple years, to bring us up to what we are facing right now, and then how to go forward from there. So we'll be posting that by the end of the week. And there's a contact page on the website. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to me at, I think it's Damocles at Sotto Voce Vault. And I am happy to speak with anybody about anything having to do with the true nature of our reality. Other truth seekers are just trying to make a better world.
Well, you've just entered the rabbit hole and you're going to fall down it.
Looking forward to it. I love Alice in Wonderland, so hopefully it'll be an adventure.
This is going to blow you away. Trust me. Oh, I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight, guys. And we'll be back next Saturday with a guest, hopefully. You know,
we do. Oh wait, who do we have next week?
We
have Brian J. Laverty coming on next week with Lex, if he's feeling up to it. Next week we are going to have a very special announcement that we've been teasing everybody with. So that's when we can finally come out and say it.
Mm-hmm.
Be sure to catch up on that. As always, thank you, Dee, for coming on. This was rather interesting. And it's still going off.
Yeah. It's been amazing tonight, Dee.
Thank you so much for having such great conversation. I love talking to you guys. Thank you for giving us this chance.
Yes. Yeah. Well, catch you all later, guys, and we'll see you all next week. And we'll talk behind the scenes.
Of course.
Sounds good.
All right.